Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Bullpen Blues. As always, I'm your co-host, Kevin Dixon, joined by our good buddy, David Esser. David, how we doing?
Kevin, what is going on?
Another week in the books.
Yeah, I'm visiting my family this weekend, spending some time with the fam. Turned the Phillies game on today. Watched the first couple of innings. Watched Chase Anderson and David Hale give up 7, 8.
It wasn't really on Hale. I think Anderson gave up 7 of them. Hale gave up 1 and 3 2/3.
Yeah, and that was about my cutoff point. They lost the series. Pitching was real bad today. They fought back a little bit, but Kevin, that's an ugly way to end off the series. You lose a NOLA start. Chase Anderson comes out, looks like a minor league caliber pitcher, and then they walk away, with another series L in the books.
Yeah, I think the tougher one was yesterday, because today, look, we've not praised Anderson, but we've been patient with him. And the guy just isn't good. We can admit that now. He stinks. But you kind of knew that going into today that they were going to be in trouble, especially without Bryce and JT and Didi. So I didn't think that they'd be down 8-0 in the third inning. But I didn't necessarily view it as a game that they were probably going to win. I think the one that hurt more was Saturday. And for as optimistic as I am, I try to be the voice of reason on the show. I try to be positive. There's just far too many duds where games they just don't show up. And when they're like that, they are tough to watch. They are really hard to watch on those nights. Like today was a fun game after Maton homered. They started to rally a little bit. They got it to where they were a couple feet away from a game-tying 3-run homer from the most hated man in Philadelphia, Odubel Herrera. I thought Saturday was the one that hurt a little bit more. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, especially because, and we're going to go kind of game by game here in a second, but they won another Vince Velasquez start, right? And they looked good. Yeah, and, you come out there, you win a game, especially after the manner in which they lost the Nats series finale. It felt like they needed to get back on track right away, which they did, and everyone's feeling good. You got the ace on the mound, Nola, and he comes out and he puts them in a quick hole. The offense isn't able to fight back at all against a rather poor Blue Jays pitcher that night. There's no fight, not a lot of life. There was a lot of errors in the field, and then you kind of just felt that hangover into today, where JT gets banged up, Bryce gets banged up. Bless his heart, he tried to fight through it today. That was probably a really bad idea in hindsight. Andrew Knapp banged up right before first pitch. It just kind of felt like there was kind of a lull. Kind of everyone was kind of dawdling out there, and then before you know it, they're down 7-0, and again they fought hard. But
yeah, that's a big thing. Like I was really proud of the way they did fight today because they were missing a lot of their big guns. And David, they were feet away. Like I'm not kidding. I know that. I don't know if you did say you saw it or not. I know you're with your family today. You're busy. David, they were like maybe this far from being a tie game. Like I can't stress enough how close it was.
It would have been a heck of a story. Imagine if Anderson just only gives up 5 runs or 4 runs, right? Yeah. We're talking about
imagine if he just wasn't on the roster.
Yeah. Again, we're going to go game by game here in a second. But Chase Anderson, you're right. We were patient with this dude. We talked about his past success with Milwaukee rather extensively. We went into this series talking about, hey, maybe against his old team, he gives us a little something. Kevin, he got rocked. Like he looks bad out there. And it was something I noticed in his most recent start against the Nats, where his fastball is sitting like 90 sometimes, and it's just going in a straight line right down the middle. And
it doesn't move.
It doesn't move. I think the Blue Jays knew it, and it was batting practice out there through the first, inning and a third. So not great at all.
Yeah. It makes you question how many more turns he's going to get. I want to see Adonis Medina get a look. I know he's throwing in AAA. What do you got to lose, man? Like, seriously. The reality of Anderson starting today is why they lost the ball game. They scored 8 runs. They had double-digit hits. I mean, they were there in the end. But, yeah, I mean, and we saw it with Nola the night before, who we're going to get into as well. They continue to put the team behind. I mean, that's draining. You're behind 3-0, 4-0 before you even really get a chance to get settled in. Last night, they couldn't really overcome it. They couldn't get anything going. And today, it was just too much. It was just out of reach. David, you score 8 runs, you should win 9 out of 10 times.
Should win 9.9 out of 10 times when you're scoring that many runs. Yeah, and I know Spencer Howard had another productive outing in AAA today as well. There's still questions about how they want to use him, if they have any plans of really using him in 2021, or if this is more of a 2022 thing. But yeah, I think the leash is going to get pretty short here with Chase Anderson. They pulled the plug on the Matt Moore thing rather quickly for good reason.
Good reason. Yeah.
I think we could be in a similar boat here with Chase. But okay, I want to circle back to Game 1, which they won. Awesome. We were feeling good. The big story was Vince Velasquez, who has, since joining the rotation, his ERA is down into the 2s. His last, you just threw it up on the screen right now. Perfect. His last 3 starts, his ERA 1.59. He's pitched 17 innings. Look, he's still not giving the team a whole lot of length.
Nope.
But you know what? If you're holding guys to, 1 run, 2 runs through your 5 or 6 innings, it's productive. Kevin, I have my thoughts on Vince and about where kind of this is going to end up going. I want to hear your thoughts first.
I mean, I'm not expecting this, what you see on the screen right now. I mean, he's been pretty good. Just looking at like the regular baseball stats, we just need him to be serviceable, man. And I know there may be some things that indicate he may not be moving forward. We've seen it in the past as well. I mean, this is year 6. We were speaking before we came on. I believe this is the best 3-start stretch of his career that he's currently on. I'm not expecting this from him, because this is, if you look at the numbers on paper, it's pretty special. I mean, look at that slash line against. He hasn't been giving up a lot of hits. I think all of his runs in his starts have come via the long ball. So he's really not putting guys on base has helped him. I don't know how sustainable it is long term, even in terms of him just being serviceable, but he's earned the right to get not just one more turn, a couple more turns. He at least we've seen this story before, but he's earned the right to get a couple more goes.
Yeah, and you make a very good point. I believe this is the best 3 starts he's had as a pitcher in general. Where my personal concerns with Vince come from, and I went on record this offseason that, as him being somebody I would look to trade, just because of the inconsistency, how much money we're paying him, etc. If you pull up his Baseball Savant page, and look, these numbers aren't everything. These are kind of just a tool, maybe a guideline you can use to predict future success or lack thereof success. But if you look at his Baseball Savant numbers, Kevin, he is in the 2nd percentile in all of baseball in terms of average exit velocity, which, if you've watched his starts, that's not that hard to believe. It's been a lot of hard outs. It's been a lot of balls into the outfield where our defense just happens to be in the right spot at the right time. His FIP, I believe, since rejoining the rotation, is north of 5, which means he's gotten pretty lucky in terms of the defense. His hard hit percentage, 13th percentile. His walk percentage, 10th percentile. His chase rate, 14th percentile. Like, these aren't good numbers. These are actually really, really bad numbers. And while his success has been appreciated, it's been a blessing. It's kind of given this team a few extra wins that they probably shouldn't have had. My concern is that the front office, the coaching staff, whomever, they're going to buy too much into this version of Velasquez and convince themselves that he's going to be a player in this rotation for the rest of the season, where, in my opinion, he's still somebody they should look to get back into that kind of 6th starter role where he can give you a spot start and a doubleheader, or if someone gets injured. I don't think you can make the playoffs with him pitching every 5 days. I think we again, this is year 6. We've done this before. Yeah. It hasn't worked out. Do I think this year is going to be the year when he hasn't changed anything? He's throwing the same pitches, His velocity is about the same. His slider still doesn't really move a whole lot. His curveball still hangs up in the zone a lot. His savant numbers are very similar, if not worse, to what they were the past couple of years. So do I think just for some magical reason that he's going to continue to give you productive starts? I really don't think so. And I think they should still look to move him out of the rotation as soon as possible.
Yeah, and we talked briefly before we came on about the possibility of trading him. I don't know how realistic that is just based on they've gotten nothing out of Chase Anderson. They've gotten nothing out of Matt Moore. There's just really no other options there. I do want to say, and we're going to get into it with Dombrowski, this roster is not a finished product. I'm 100% believe that moves will be made. I do think they just missed the boat on Hunter Strickland. I don't know if you saw that he was moved to the Angels for –
well, we can't get him because of the Bryce thing.
Good point. Good point. Yeah. Still, it's like something like that I would have liked to see. But just in terms of Vince and possibly replacing him in the rotation, I do see this team making a move at some point. As we continue to get closer to the deadline, the teams that are fraudulent, meaning they're playing way above their head, are going to show themselves. And the teams that are playoff caliber are going to start to separate a bit. We got to hope that the Phillies are in the second category and are looking to make moves because I believe they have the GM in place to do it, or the president of baseball operations, whatever you want to refer to him as, Sam Foles, the GM. I believe moves are here to be made. However, in terms of Vince, I just don't see a route to trade him. I agree. I think best case scenario, he is your long man, 6-starter, doubleheader guy, whatever you want to call it. But for the time being, he's earned the right to stay in that rotation over the likes of a Chase Anderson and over the likes of Matt Moore, who we might start to trend towards. Matt Moore might get another turn in place of Chase Anderson.
That's actually, I didn't even think about that. That's a really good point.
That's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah, and just to circle back, no, I'm with you with Vince here. He has earned the right now. Look, if he's getting outs, albeit the means may be a little unorthodox, he's getting outs. And right now, this team just needs guys to take the mound because the depth is thin once you get past Chase Anderson, Vince Velasquez, Matt Moore. It's kind of two of these three guys has got to start giving the team innings. Something I want to point to with your talk about the trade deadline. And I was talking to somebody on Twitter about this today, is I'm curious to see where the Phillies are at the trade deadline. I know a lot of us expect them to be buyers. I'm not so sure at the moment, regardless of the record. I know when Dombrowski first signed on, I kind of viewed this as 2022 might be the year this team goes all in. I could see them targeting some guys with future team control, similar to what they did with Coonrod and Alvarado, guys that they expect to be around for multiple seasons as opposed to rental deals. So if they could go snag, a fourth, fifth starter who can be on the roster through 2022, through 2023, I think that would excite me more than any sort of rental deal, just because at least what we've seen thus far, they're not at that caliber of team where they're expected to be huge buyers at the deadline.
Yeah, I do want to say this. If they're within a couple games, like right now they're a half game back, I fully expect them to be buyers. I agree to the extent that you're talking about. We'll see what unfolds. But I would think that they're going to be a team looking to add for sure. If they're right in the race, they have one of the highest payrolls in baseball. They have a fan base who, as you know, we're in that fan base. We interact with the fans every day. We know the level of anxiety and just angst and just want to that's in the fan base right now. I mean, that can't be ignored. If they're right there, I fully expect that they'll be there to make a move again, for something. I agree with you. I don't know what extent it'll be, but there's no way that I think this is a finished roster.
But it's definitely not finished. I'll agree with you there. There's a lot of holes. All right, Kevin, I want to jump to game 2 because like you led off the show saying I think this was probably the most frustrating game of the weekend. We were feeling good coming off the Velasquez start, and a lot of things went wrong. First and foremost, the offense didn't show up. They didn't score a run. Kevin, you can't win baseball games if you're not putting points up. But number 2, Aaron Nola came out flat once again, and you look at the final stat line, and it's not that bad. He gave you 6 2/3. It's not the worst start. Look, Toronto, I hyped them up heading into the series. The offense is good. It's very good. Something I wrote an article about this morning, and something that's concerning me, is Nola's road home splits. The numbers are vastly different. Nola's road ERA this season is up to a 5.65. He has a 1.256 whip. He's 1-3 in those starts, and opponents are hitting 277 off him when he's pitching on the road. Like, albeit a small sample size, that's rather alarming at this point.
Yeah, and when you see the numbers, it's not surprising considering the Atlanta start where you just got bombed early. I do agree. The Blue Jays game, you can't continue. We just talked about it 10 minutes ago. You can't continue to put the team behind. They were deflated immediately. You got your big dog on the mound, and you're behind the 8 ball instantaneously. And it was clear he probably didn't have his best stuff. So the offense feeling it there. All right, we got to go now because it's probably not going to stay here at this spot. He did hold them there. He bared down. There's definitely something to say about that. He kept them in the ball game. He's not the reason they lost that game, but he didn't help them. I loved what you had to say on Twitter, where it's okay to be like, it's good that he bared down and kept them in it, while also saying you can, one, not put your team behind the 8 ball right away, and two, the offense stunk. All those things can be true.
Yeah, it's not like mutually exclusive. I think a lot of times you see a loss and there's almost like an offense versus pitching debate, like who was to blame today? And I'm like, look, everybody was bad. It wasn't. The defense was probably the worst of the three, and we haven't even talked about that.
They were rough this weekend, man. They might have 6 or 7 errors in those 3 games.
Yeah, 6 and 7 errors, and then like 4 or 5 miscues and mental lapses. It was really bad. But yeah, in regards to Saturday, I think it was across the board bad. Where the offense was bad, the defense was bad, the injuries started stacking up. Nola, definitely wasn't good. Like it's
for sure
promising that he bunkered down and held him and grinded through.
But he wasn't good.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't good. And, and it's not even about the ace versus non-ace debate. We've done that rabbit hole a million times. Nola's still one of the better pitchers in the National League. Statistically, non-statistically, wherever you want to go with that argument, that's not really up for debate. But, you're looking at Nola like, hey, bud, you have a chance to take a huge series against a very good Toronto team who came in scorching hot. Vince did you a solid yesterday. Can you do the same? And he came out flat. It kind of sucked the life out of the team. That carried over into Sunday. Now here we are, riding another series loss.
Here we are right here. I just threw up on the screen. They dropped 2 at 3. They're now 21-20. There's no denying they've been a 500 team so far. We talked about it. Me and you, we bicker about it a lot, where I'll be like, they're right there. I liked how you today broke it down of forget about the playoffs, the division. Just the product itself has not been good enough, and there's no denying that. They have plenty of holes on their roster, although the one in center field looks like it may be getting patched up a little bit currently as Odubel's numbers from the past week scroll across the bottom. We'll get into that more as well. But Didi Gregorius, killing him at shortstop. Why is he not on the injured list? They didn't have anybody to play today, David. Like, what are they doing? They don't want to put guys on the IL. And what it's doing is it's hurting them. If Harper can't go, he missed like 4 or 5 games in a row, was it, after he got hit? You can't be playing a man down. Happens again with Didi now. He's missed multiple days with his elbow. If his elbow's not good enough, David, you can't be playing with 24, 25 guys when the other team's playing with 26. It's just not – it's not optimal. And it hurt them today when Scott Kingery – whatever reason he left the game, he was dizzy. I hope he's okay, but he absolutely stinks. They should leave him in Dunedin, or however you pronounce it, Dunedin. I sound like an idiot. But leave him there, get him off the team. He screwed them today because then they're forced to put Bryce Harper out there playing injured, and he comes up in the biggest spot of the game, and he has to actually swing the bat. You hope that he didn't further injure himself anymore. They're just – some of the decisions they're making is why they are where they're at 21-20. They really have not helped themselves at all. Each time they take 2 steps forward, they take 2 steps back.
Yeah, I think that's actually a perfect segue kind of into the next topic. And you put that perfectly. The process over the first 41 games and even in the offseason has been strange, Kevin.
Weird.
Whether it's the handling of the injured list, the handling of guys like Scott Kingery and Mickey Moniak, who we were promised were going to have a full year in AAA to figure out their swings. And that was not the case. The handling of the bullpen, the handling of the back end of the rotation, where we were told Matt Moore and Chase Anderson were these huge additions that were going to stabilize the back of the rotation. That's not true. The bench additions, a Matt Joyce, a Ronald Torreyes. I mean, these guys are not like MLB caliber players. And specifically, we can talk now about Chase Anderson, which, look, there's not a lot to say. He was horrible. But you look at that move, they gave him $4 million. That's a good amount of money. And he's not only has he been bad, Kevin, but he's worse than some of the options they had last year. I mean, he's putting up worse numbers than Jake Arrieta was. Or, take it back 2 years. He's putting up worse numbers than a Jason Vargas was.
Or Drew Smiley.
Or a Drew Smiley. Like, we're down pretty bad. And, we were talking a little bit about Dombrowski. By no means am I out on Dombrowski. He's a future Hall of Famer, blah, 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 blah. But some of his initial moves have not looked great 41 games into the season.
No, there's no denying that. He's made a couple good moves. We've already talked on Coonrod. I'm going to throw his numbers up again. Elite. Fantastic move. We can tip our cap to Dombrowski about that one. Alvarado was a good move as well. I think Brad Miller was a good move. I would love to see him continue to play more. But you're right. The back end of the rotation, they addressed it. I think me and you could probably do a little bit better than what they've gotten. I personally believe, I've been banging the table, you have as well, there's a better option than both of those guys currently with the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs in Adonis Medina. I believe he should be on the roster. You're right. Not everything has worked. It is only May, but at the same time, we're 41 games in. We're a quarter of the way done, and we're 21-20. We got to kick it into gear here, man. We are very lucky, as you see again here on the screen, that the NL East is not very good, because they were still right there. As much as I'm on your nerves with it, they're a half a game out. The division's there for the taking, man. They need to get their shit straightened out, and they need to get going here, because the Mets and Braves aren't going to be stumbling forever. We believe they're both two very good teams. I still believe the Phillies are a good team. I do, because if they weren't, I think they'd be buried in the standings right now, considering all the BS that they've dealt with so far. But that doesn't mean that they don't need to be better, because they definitely need to be better.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we really saw today, specifically, when half the roster's out due to various different injuries, was just the lack of depth in this organization. I mean, it's shallow. It's really shallow. And we knew that going into the offseason. And I think Dombrowski's hands were tied a little bit in terms of he had to get the JT extension locked up. He had to sign a big name reliever, or the fans would have rioted. He had to sign a shortstop, and he kind of got suckered into giving Didi a 2-year deal just because the market dried up pretty quickly.
It's looking bad, man.
There's still time. But yeah, I mean, you look at today.
Good.
A guy like Marcus Semien was probably someone I'd rather have on this team at shortstop. I know Charlton Simmons, think about what he could have done for the defense. There were better options out there that we didn't get.
He went deep today as well, Anderson Simmons.
Yeah, not a great day for the should have been Philly shortstops. Yep. But the depth was something that I think we both really hoped was going to improve. And they brought in a ton of guys on minor league deals. They traded for a couple of guys like a CJ Cotham. They brought in a guy like a Travis Jankowski. They brought in a lot of these guys, and they just it's been a whole lot of nothing. Look, Matt Joyce has been injured for a while. Ronald Torreyes, I don't think he's ever coming back up to the major leagues. I think they're just done with him. The CJ Cotham thing made no sense. They traded for him and then cut him and then signed him back because he was injured.
He's still in the organization.
Yeah, who knows what he's doing? He's the water boy. He's the bat boy. Like, who knows? They tried.
He's 8 for 29 this year, hitting 276.
Not too bad.
353 OBP. How long until he comes up, man?
Yeah. And look, the Nick Maton thing has kind of
love Nick Maton. Love
Yeah,
it.
and like think about where this team would be without him, because he slapped a big old Band-Aid on our backup infield problem that's still
Running
pretty
his numbers
significant.
right here. I mean, this is the last 7 days. I mean, 368, 684 slug, 2 homers. I mean, he single-handedly willed them back into that ball game today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he really did. He woke them up.
Well,
It was just too late.
here's the thing, Kevin. We need more Nick Matons. We need more than one. It can't just
The
be the one.
Maton's the kind of guy that the Dodgers always hit on. So it's nice that the Phillies have hit on a guy like that, because the Dodgers are littered with those kind of guys.
And that was the thing. I was going to bring it up. I forgot. A lot of people are now kind of doing the, oh, well, the Phillies are super injured routine, right? And like, this is why they're going to start losing games. Like,
look around the division, man.
Yeah, look, to a point, but like a lot of teams get injured. The Dodgers at the moment, this is the name of the players they have on the IL. Corey Seager, Cody Bellinger, AJ Pollock, Zach McKinstry, Dustin May, David Price, Tony Gonsolin, Brusdar Gratterall, the guy who throws like 101.
He throws like 101,
yeah. Corey Knubel, like that is an insane number of players. Kevin, they're probably still going to keep winning baseball games. They're probably going to be okay. They're probably going to finish the month a couple games over 500 like they should be. Like at some point, there's got to be better depth in AAA, in AA, all the way down to rookie ball that we can call upon. And again, that's not on Dombrowski. He just got here. That's on the organization as a whole. But I still was expecting Dombrowski to find a good backup outfielder, to find a good backup infielder for our third catcher, not to be Rafael Marchand.
I wanted to touch on Marchand. It speaks volumes of the depth of that position that they have a 22-year-old kid as their number 3 catcher who should be playing every single day in the minor leagues. There's no reason that he should be here. And that's not saying that I wanted them to keep Jeff Mathis, because he stinks too. I think he is one of the worst offensive players in the past 20 years.
He asked for his release too, by the way.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm not BSing when I say that. Look it up. He's one of the worst offensive players in the last 20 years. Calls a good game, though. I mean, the fact that they have a 22-year-old kid as their number 3 catcher, I mean, that's alarming. And I'm excited about it. I mean, hey, I can't sit there and rip him today because he left a lot of guys on base today. He left 6 guys on. He was 0 for 4. Stranded them loaded in the first inning. But he shouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. So it's like, how much can you really, bash on him? He shouldn't be on the roster.
Yeah, because, I mean, he wasn't in the starting lineup until like 3 minutes.
Until I was watching the game and he stepped up to the plate. I was like, wait a minute.
The announcers were confused. They're like, where's Andrew Knapp? You make a really good point. And like, it's more than just Marchand, right? Like Scott Kingery shouldn't be here right now. He can't hit the baseball. Like, what's the point? Mickey Moniak, when he was up, he shouldn't be here. Like, you can look at some of the guys they've turned into the bullpen, an Enyel De Los Santos type character. Why is he here? Why are these guys playing for an organization that's desperately trying to make the postseason? And like part of it's because of the drafting, the development's been bad, and then part of it's this past offseason, poorly allocating money. I mean, even like a Brandon Kinsler type signing hasn't looked all that good. Probably not worth $3 million.
No, it's not worth. They should have kept Watson, brother.
Yeah. Actually, I think he got rocked the other night, but his ERA is still like in the 2s, like it is every year.
Kinsler's going out there and getting rocked every single time he takes the mound.
You're not wrong. But it's these types of kind of roster holes that start to rear their head, in mid-late May, because that's when the injuries start to pick up. Especially with the Phillies, they have an older roster than most. Yeah. And it's only going to get worse. It's not like these guys are going to magically get healthier as the season goes on. That's not typically how these things go. They're going to have to figure these positions out.
The thing that concerns me, and we've talked about it multiple times with the Watson move, is like me and you sitting here doing this show, we're like, what are you doing? Like, we knew that they were making the wrong choice. And like, who the hell are we, bro? Like, these guys are running a professional baseball team, and they couldn't see that a guy with a career ERA of 2.79 was a better option than David Hale. Even someone like Enyel De Los Santos, he's in the organization. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Jojo Romero, like, come on, man. And for what it's worth, Watson has a 2.25 in 12 appearances. Would be pretty nice to have that out of the bullpen.
That's pretty good, Kevin.
Juan Soto, Michael Conforto, Freddie Freeman. I mean, the division is loaded with left-handed power, man. It's just I'm lost for words. It's the same thing last year. We went over it a ton. I've bitched and moaned about it a ton. Why Blake Parker wasn't on the roster? Like, there's something fundamentally flawed with how they're evaluating their bullpen. Because if me and you can say it, and the average Joe fan walking down the street can say it, why can they not say it?
Yeah, and then that was kind of my point with my Dombrowski criticism, where as great as his his resume is, some of the moves he's made, mainly like the decisions he's made, the process that he's employed.
Yeah.
The tweet I put out this afternoon was, quote, whatever process Dombrowski employed to determine that Chase Anderson and Matt Moore were worth a combined $7 million needs to immediately be thrown in the trash. And then I go on to highlight that Dombrowski's decision to trade for Coonrod and Alvarado, for example, were really good ones. But the rotation decisions made no sense. I mean, Taijuan Walker was out there for months.
How about Alex Wood, man?
Alex Wood, I mean, he got signed for pennies, and it's like,
well, he got $3 million, but it's comparable to what these guys got.
Yeah, I mean, it's less than Chase Anderson.
That's what I mean. And he only, is 4-0 and 5 starts with a 1.80 ERA. That's all.
Yeah, and then we clown the Nats for signing John Lester to, I think, $5 million, but I'd much rather have him on the roster.
I would rather have John Lester as well.
Absolutely, without a doubt. I mean, Jake Arrieta for, I think, $3 million has been better than the two guys we have at the back of our rotation at the moment.
I do want to say this. It was the Gene Segura treatment with Arrieta. He wasn't as bad as people made him out to be. It was just his contract. But he wasn't what he was getting paid for.
Yes.
I totally agree with that.
He's a good player at $3 million.
He was a rotation arm, though. He's a guy you could have out there every fifth day, and he would give you a chance to win more times than not.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't think he ever would have signed back in Philly.
I don't either.
But again, it's the process. It's other teams around baseball are managing to find starting rotation caliber pitchers at $3 million, $4 million, $5 million. And then some teams are finding borderline aces at under $10 million. I mean, Taijuan Walker's been incredible for the Mets this year.
He has, and you were on that, man. I
love Taijuan, man. I was all over it.
Yeah, and I was someone who wasn't necessarily bought in. I was wrong. I can admit that. You were right on the money with that one.
Fingers crossed he sucks the rest of the way.
Well, when I'm not starting him in fantasy, because he's a 2-start pitcher this week.
Okay,
and I got him,
so. Again, it just goes back to that process of other teams saw Tony Watson as a valuable pitcher. We didn't. We were wrong. Other teams didn't see Chase Anderson and Matt Moore as valuable pitchers. We did. We were wrong. Jojo Romero, we were wrong. Enio De Los Santos, we were wrong. David Hale, wrong. And it's just like, when is that train going to stop? And when are we going to get to the version of pumping out quality guys from AAA every single week?
They just need more guys like Coonrod and Alvarado, man.
Home runs, man. Home runs.
And for as bad as some of those other moves were, and I've already popped them up twice, I got to do it one more time because I'm steadfast in my belief that Sam Coonrod is an elite right-handed reliever. Look at those numbers. Sparkling. He has 2 walks this year, David. 2 walks in 18 innings. Oh, my goodness. For all the grief we're giving Dombrowski, fantastic move to land Sam Coonrod for a guy, Carson Ragsdale, who pitched very well in his first minor league start. And I saw people complaining on Twitter, we gave up on another good guy. Sam Coonrod's been awesome. So he's helped them this year. I cannot fault the Phillies for that move, even if Ragsdale ends up being a fantastic player. Coonrod's under team control for like another 4 years, man. I mean, he's probably here for the long haul. Yeah,
I mean, Coonrod will be a closer on most teams. He might need to be the closer.
At some point this year, I think he's going to be closing for the Phillies. I really do.
He's been very good.
He's their best reliever.
At the moment, absolutely. And then again, Alvarado, probably the second best reliever, another guy they got for pennies.
Need to get his control one. Need to get him to throw more strikes. I love how hard he throws, but sometimes he comes out and he just does not have it.
The funny thing with Alvarado is like the mound visits with him always seem to work. And I literally think Cotham goes out there and tells Alvarado, dude, just throw it down the middle. They're not going to touch it. You're throwing 102. They're not going to make contact. And it typically always works because he's throwing 102.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they've been good. They need more from those guys. Just continue to produce.
Yeah. All right, Kevin, before we get into our weekly segment, Philly of the Week, and non-Philly of the week. Any other topics you wanted to touch on real quick?
No. I'll be in the ballpark Tuesday. I'll be in the ballpark Friday for the Boston Red Sox, and I'll be there Sunday. So, look, I'm 3-0 this year. Could be a good omen that I'm going to 3 games this week.
Yeah, I'm all in on that. I'm 0-1. I went to the I guess I said on the last pod, but I was at that Nats game, and it was an ugly one. But all right, Philly of the week. Kevin, who do you got for me?
I got Mr. Odubel Herrera, and I'm just going to run them across the bottom with our who's hot. Philly of the week, Odubel Herrera, 375, 444, 583 was his slash line. He homered. He had 2 RBIs, single-handedly rallied the Phillies to a huge, huge win against the Nationals the other night with a big 9th-inning homer to tie the game. Came up today as the tie-in run with 2 outs, hit one off the top of the wall. For a second, I thought he got it. He's up to 250 on the year. That OPS is climbing and climbing and climbing. It's almost over 700, which I understand not really a good benchmark to have, but considering where he was and the production they were getting from center field to begin with, Odubel Herrera, baseball-wise, major bright spot for this ball club for the past 2 weeks. He's probably been arguably their most consistent and best offensive player in that time span.
Well, I think the MLB average for OPS at the moment is like 710. So if he gets above that mark, he'd be an above-average option out in center field, which seems impossible considering where this organization was at, 3 weeks ago.
And I don't want to say that he's going to continue to hit as much as he has because we've seen what he does. He's very up and down. He'll probably go through a 2-week stretch where he can't hit water if he fell out of a boat. But right now, you got to ride him while he's hot. He's been great for them on the field. He brings emotion. And I firmly believe that the only reason he wasn't on the roster to start the year is because the Phillies tried to save face. They wanted to show that they gave everybody else a chance. And when in reality, what did Moniak get? 20 at-bats. Roman Quinn, I mean, we knew he stunk, but he didn't really get much run either. Adam Hazley stepped away, who's back now with the organization. We didn't really get into that. But he didn't really get much run. It didn't take long for them to turn to Odubel, and to me, that just leads me to believe that all along that's what they wanted to do. They just wanted to save face and show, hey, we gave these guys a chance, when in reality, dude, 20 at-bats is nothing. 20 at-bats is nothing. A guy can go out and go 2 for 20, and then he can come out like Odubel's done and go 9 for his next 20. Like, it's just baseball, man.
Yeah, I mean, and that circles back to the process discussion we were having before, where it was like, what was the point? And look, I love Mickey Moniak. His number 2 Mickey Moniak podcast.
He was clamoring for him to be on the roster. I mean, hey.
He had an awesome spring training, but
he did.
The whole 20 at-bat thing, up and down, like, what's the point? Just let the kid play in AAA. Hopefully he's ready for 2022.
For sure. And I was even saying all along, and I'm sorry to our listeners, this segment is running a bit long already, but it didn't make any sense because Odubel on the bench, with how bad this bench is, he was a better option than Matt Joyce, who I think is hitting 100, and he's on the IL. I was never a big fan of him making the roster. I really wasn't. And Odubel has just been a bright spot in the past week, basically full circle is where we're trying to get back to.
Absolutely. Okay. My Philly of the week. And I could have gone a few different routes here. Could have gone.
I'm curious. Yeah, we talked about it. I'm curious where we're going here.
Could have gone Vince Velasquez. But I'm going to go Bryce Harper. And mainly just for one reason. And it's just we don't talk about him a lot on this podcast, I feel like. And I think it's partially just because, we're talking about, who was really bad this week, who outperformed expectations, game recap, yada, yada, yada. Bryce has been incredible this year. I mean, obviously he was kind of in and out the last 2 days because of injury, but Kevin, he's batting .307 on the year.
Which is crazy. Which is crazy.
Whole year. Like,
his over-under was probably like 250-something, 260-something. Yeah.
I mean, he has completely revitalized his approach to baseball.
Most underrated player in at least in the National League.
I mean, he gets to 2 strikes and he's just a contact machine, which is something he never did with Washington. That he didn't particularly do with the Phillies until I would say probably, the 2020 season when he started off. He was hitting like 365 for a month straight. Yeah. But yeah, Kevin has it popped up on the screen here. Over his last 7 days, he's hitting 389. OPS well over 1,000. Obviously, the RBI, the run production numbers aren't great. A lot of that has to do with guys still not really getting on base in front of him.
For sure.
He left a few on this past weekend, but for the most part, I just don't want to ever take for granted the fact that we have a guy in the 3-hole hitting over 300 with an OPS over 1,000, and he was on base 5 times out of 5 on Friday night. Got walked 3 times, hit a double, hit a single. Like that's
on base is 522 in the past week. He's been on base more than half of his ABs.
Yeah, so that's some pretty insane production. And I just thought after kind of an up and down, not so great week, you can always turn to Bryce and be like, he's still giving you MVP production.
Yeah, but I mean, we shouldn't really be surprised. But man, he's been better than advertised. I think as a whole with the Phillies.
Yeah, I mean his numbers with the Phillies have been better than they were with the Nats, even with his MVP season included, which is pretty darn impressive. All right, Kevin, non-Philly of the week. Who do you got for me?
I'm going to go with the guy who I'm removing the nickname. I gave him Chase with the ace capitalized. That's gone. He might be the ace in AAA. It's got to be Chase Anderson because he was just for as much as I stuck up for him the other day where he kept them in the ballgame and he got a win, he was so much worse today that even though he won a start this week, David, he's my non-Philly of the week or worst Philly of the week, however you want to phrase it. He stunk today, David. And to get me to completely flip like this, because this is someone who we mentioned I was patient. His ERA is like 6.96 on the year. 7 earned today. I think he gave him 8 hits in an inning and a third. It's embarrassing, man. I don't even know what to say. He was just awful today, and it was from the onset. Back-to-back homers to start the game. The Bichette homer was an absolute missile. I'm at a loss for words, man. I didn't expect them to be that bad.
And I believe this is now 2 weeks in a row that Chase Anderson has been a member of the worst / non-Philly of the week. Because he was mine last week.
Yeah.
And we say it every time. We're like, hopefully the roles are reversed.
The trend seems to be because I've had Odubel as a non-Philly of the week. We had Hoskins, and he flipped and was Philly of the week. Chase is breaking the trend, and it's not going over well.
He's breaking the trend, and he's breaking my soul in the process as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so my non-Philly of the week, it's got to be Jean Segura.
Yeah.
And this was a guy I criticized a lot during the offseason. He came out, he started this year incredible, but the last 7 days were not good ones. Hit 161 during that span, an on base of 212, and defensively, Kevin, he was a disaster. A lot of kind of miscues, lack of focus, a lot of errors. The big talking point from today's game was where he missed kind of just a little bloop out to second base. He just completely missed it, and it sounds like Joe Girardi gave him a hard time about him in the dugout, and then that pissed off Jean Segura, and then people had to calm him down, and then people were asking Joe about it in the press conference.
Yeah,
and he was pissed off.
He wouldn't talk about it, yeah.
Yeah, and so now we've created this whole thing over you just, in my opinion, being kind of lackadaisical out of second base and just not being aggressive on a ball that should have been caught or fielded appropriately. And again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Gene, you're getting paid $14.5 million, which puts you as one of the highest paid second basemen in baseball. We can't have this, especially in a big weekend series where, if anything, they need you to step up as a leader, and not just be a guy on the field.
And today, considering they rallied and they were right there in the end, they were right there. Just think of the couple extra runs that were just totally unnecessary. That bad fielding and misplays and even bad pitches, they were right there, David. The game was there for the taking, and they just ran out of outs. I firmly believe that. And a play like that from Segura, it hurt them today. In terms of the him and Girardi spat, I love what Girardi did. Don't talk about it. Squash that shit in the locker room. Move on. We have a long way to go. Move on. Put it behind you. Don't let it become this big thing in the media. Squash it, and let's move on tomorrow.
I couldn't agree more. And look, people have harped on Joe Girardi all season long to be more accountable with guys. All right, here it is, right? Here it is.
Yep.
And he's going to harp on them, but then it's going to stay between them because we don't need to know about it.
As
right?
it should. It should.
It's not our business what Joe and Gene talk about because, look, I'm sure Gene knows he messed up. Joe knows he messed up.
He's probably embarrassed.
Yeah, he's probably embarrassed. I mean, on television, right? And but you're 100% right. Look, off day tomorrow. Squash it. Move on. Huge series against the Marlins up next. Playing back in the division again. First time they've seen this team in Miami. Look, Miami's been good this year. They're kind of building off some momentum from last season where they're pitching. They've been good. What are they? 2 games behind us in the standings?
2 games behind us. That's right.
Yeah, it's not a short 2 games. They've been good. Their pitching staff continues to be impressive.
We're running here are the probables for the week. Running across the bottom. David is firmly in belief that the Marlins have the advantage in 2 of the 3 starts. Don't necessarily agree. I'm still taking Eflin over Trevor Rogers, but we'll see. We'll see how it works out.
We will see. Trevor Rogers has been good, man. He's good.
He has. He has. He has been good for sure. I'm not disputing that. I just believe in Zach Eflin.
Hey, I vouched for him at the start of the show. I said he'll be all right. We'll see though. Big start. All right. So off day tomorrow. We're then attacking.
Did you see June? They have like 7 off days in June.
Yeah, and then like 2 in July.
It's insane. And then July and August, they have like a stretch of 27 games in a row.
We talked about it last episode. Whoever made the schedule this year.
It's unbelievable. Doesn't make any sense. They are 41 games in now, and what have they played? 7 different ball clubs?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. You're asking the wrong guy here. All right, Kevin. Before we sign off, and any final takes?
Nah, let's man, the Brewers episode was so much fun. Can we just get a good week going so we can freaking have a good episode, and be positive and be happy and be excited? It seems like I need to go back and look at our record because I saw Talking Yanks tweeted something how they're 3-9 on days they record.
Okay,
we're gonna have to go back because it seems every single time we hop on the mic, they're coming off just a brutal loss, and I'm sitting here trying to be like, all right, let's bounce back this week, because like I'm about to say, let's bounce back this week. Let's go 4-2 this week.
Yeah,
I missed my quota last week, and they were in a great spot at 3-1 to at least get the 4 wins, and they couldn't. Let's get to 4-2 this week, please. 5-1.
Yeah, they're going to be the underdogs all week long too, so it's going to be tough.
I mean, definitely over the weekend, I would think. I know, you're being facetious, but I think over the weekend.
Yeah, well, they got Boston, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm going to be there for 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Got my sister coming up from North Carolina. We got tickets sitting right in right field, so I hope Harper's playing. I'm excited to see the Red Sox. I've never really seen them live, but we got the Marlins, and then we got the Bo Sox. Let's win both series, David, please.
I hope so. I hope. You never know, man. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Yeah. With that said, thank you everyone for tuning in. We appreciate all the support.
Yep.
The viewership numbers, the YouTube numbers, the social media interactions,
they're
all trending upwards. So we really do appreciate it. We're absolutely thrilled. Again, look, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor, all those links down below, along with
make sure to hit our Twitters as well, which are right here on the screen.
If you're watching with us here on YouTube, you have our personal Twitter accounts, our podcast Twitter account, and our Facebook page for the podcast. Both of those links will be down below as well. And then, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, where we upload our video podcasts. With that said, we are the Bullpen Blues podcast, and we will catch you on a couple of days.
Go Phils.